You ever have one of those moments where you're sitting on the couch, the remote disappears into another dimension, and you suddenly realize you have no idea how people ever lived without this thing?
Do you know where the remote is? I looked all over the house.
But here's the wild part. The invention of the TV remote wasn't smooth, or simple, or even logical. It was messy. It was dangerous. And it all started because one man absolutely hated commercials.
Jones barbecue and foot massage. Jones barbecue and foot massage. Better come down here, get some of this.
Our story begins in the late 1940s and early 1950s. Televisions were exploding in popularity, becoming the center of the home. But they were also giant, clunky pieces of furniture that weighed as much as a small refrigerator. Families loved watching TV, but they didn't love the constant adjusting, getting up every few minutes to change the channel, fix the volume, adjust the picture, or move the rabbit ear antennas that made you feel like you were trying to contact aliens. Most people just dealt with it, but not Eugene F. McDonald. Eugene ran Zenith Electronics, and he had the patience of a shaken soda bottle. Imagine him in his living room watching a show, and suddenly, one of those painfully loud, dramatic 1950s commercials blasts through the speakers. The kind that's basically yelling at you to buy soap or toothpaste. Eugene had reached his breaking point. One night, he supposedly muttered, "Why should people have to get up just to shut off a commercial?" That one irritated moment kick-started an entire technological revolution. Zenith got to work and built the first remote in 1950. It was called the Lazy Bones. Great name, terrible invention. It wasn't wireless. It had a literal cable running across your living room floor like a tripwire. The only thing the Lazy Bones really controlled was how often someone yelled in the house. People loved the idea of a remote. They just didn't want to risk a broken ankle to use one. So Zenith went back to the drawing board. They needed something wireless, something futuristic, something that didn't turn the living room into an obstacle course. And that's where engineer Eugene Pauly stepped in with a strange, brand new idea. In 1955, Pauly created the Flashmatic. This remote was literally just a handheld flashlight that you pointed at one of 4 sensors on the TV. Aim at the upper left corner to change the channel one direction. Aim at the lower right to change it another way. At first, it felt like something out of science fiction.
You're a wizard, Harry.
And then sunlight ruined everything. If the sun hit the TV just right, it triggered the sensors. Suddenly, your TV would start changing channels, cranking the volume, or turning itself off like it was haunted. Families didn't know whether to call a technician or an exorcist. The Flashmatic wasn't a remote as much as it was a chaos generator. Zenith was close to abandoning the whole remote control idea altogether. Then, a quiet, problem-solving engineer entered the picture. Robert Adler. And his solution was unlike anything anyone had tried before. In 1956, Adler came up with the Space Command remote. Instead of using light, it used ultrasonic sound, tones humans couldn't hear. Inside the remote were tiny aluminum rods. Press a button, and a small hammer struck a rod, producing a distinct ultrasonic tone. The television recognized the tone and responded. It was clever, simple, and surprisingly reliable. Dogs could hear the tones. Humans couldn't. And best of all, sunlight had no power here. It wasn't perfect, though. If you shook your keys, jingled coins, or made certain high-pitched noises, you could accidentally trigger the TV. Dogs barking sometimes changed channels. Still, people absolutely loved it. For the first time, a remote control really worked the way people dreamed it would. Adler's invention was so important that decades later he actually won an Emmy Award for it. Yes, someone won an Emmy for creating the remote control. Ultrasonic remotes dominated for the next 20 years, but by the 1980s, television had changed. Cable TV exploded. VCRs entered the scene. TV menus got more complex with more buttons and features than ever before. Ultrasonic remotes couldn't keep up with all the new functions. That's when engineers created the next evolution, the infrared remote. These are the remotes we use today. They're reliable, quiet, cheap to make, and capable of controlling dozens of functions at once. And by the 1990s, the remote wasn't just a tool, it was the command center of the living room. Whoever held it basically ruled the household. Somewhere, Eugene McDonald was probably smiling. Commercials finally defeated. So the next time you lose your remote in the couch cushions, or it disappears into that mysterious black hole under the coffee table, remember that it took a furious CEO, a dangerous tripwire remote, a sunlight-activated ghost controller, a bunch of ultrasonic dog whistles, and almost 40 years of trial and error to create the little device we use every day without thinking. A tiny invention born out of pure frustration, perfected by engineers, and now so essential that if it goes missing, the entire house shuts down like a NASA launch computer.